Hello, this is Nathan, and I have another question from a listener. And the question this time is, and it might sound a little bit strange, but how do we share the gospel with our awakened friends? Awakened, maybe you know what that means, maybe you don't, but I'm going to try to answer that question. And you might not like the answer, but I think the answer will definitely give you a kind of hope that the awakened community really lacks in abundance. And these are the best of folks, the awakened folks, the folks who believe that things are bad. You could put it that way. They believe that they're one-point Calvinists. They will believe that people are bad in the world. Brackets, especially those in power, especially perhaps you could say the William Gates of this world and the WEFs of this world. But that's another story. So, how do we share the gospel with these people? I'm going to be looking over here because the teleprompter's not working at the moment, but I've got a few points jotted down. And again, I really do hope, and my aim is to give you hope. I hope to give you hope. All right. So, many awakened people, people who believe in the conspiracy, they are Christians already, and well, they don't need the gospel, or they are gospel adjacent, you might say. That is, they believe in some form of cultural Christianity. So again, do they really need this? Well, yes, but not as much as the woke folks. That's for sure. Those bad woke folks. But there is a case to be made, a very strong case to be made, that both groups need the gospel, the true gospel, more than ever now. Because I believe the woke folks are right in this respect, that there are bad people in the world and they're doing bad things, very bad things right now. So, yeah, again, they are the best of folks in some ways. But I believe that they are being put on a hamster wheel. And I've seen people being put in the hamster wheel, including myself. And by that, I mean that people are prescribed a course of action that really gets them nowhere. They're on a hamster wheel to nowhere. That's a phrase I've borrowed from a friend of mine, Matt Truella, who wrote the book on the doctrine of the lesser magistrate. Good guy. So it may seem strange, but let's think about the awakened community and what marks them. And if you've listened to the UK column, and I subscribe to the UK column, I pay them a certain amount every month, or you listen to Alex Jones, and I, I like Alex Jones, I used to listen to him, but you come away from it and you think, ooh, it's like eating two fish and chips. You just feel ooh after it, except psychically. Really, you might have gone in smiling, happy, hopeful, but you don't come out the same way. You think, "Ooh, well, you're way down, you're laden down with all the troubles of the world. And yes, we do want to embrace the fact that things are bad at the moment, but it does seem to me that you're not allowed any hope. You're not allowed to hope. That window is closed to you. And that's really bad enough in itself. But the argument that would be made is that, well, um, let's be realistic. Let's look the problems in their eyes. Maybe that's a good thing. But why does it make you feel so downcast? And this is to my attempt to get to the heart of what the awakened community is and the problems with it. They, when you're awakened to the real news. You're awakened to the conspiracy. You're awakened to the fact that there are powers behind the throne. And often it's not good enough to say that there's a conspiracy, but there's a conspiracy behind a conspiracy and a conspiracy behind that. And who knows what is behind all of that. And, folks play this game. You might have seen it where they will suggest, well, it's the Swedes that control the world, or it's the Vatican that controls the world. It's the people with the funny side locks that control the world, whatever it happens to be. And but that's a central tenet, that the reality is that these powers are practically on the throne of the world. Now, it's an interesting exercise to look at how an awakened outlet will handle a story as compared to an alternative group which isn't maybe awakened, that is, who believe in the conspiracy, as it were, or the conspiracies. If you compare the Duran talking about the Ukraine war, well, you'll definitely not get what you'd get on the mainstream news. But what you will get is, if you come in with hope, you can leave with hope. Whereas if the same story, Israel, whatever it happens to be, is covered maybe by the UK column, I don't want to pick on them, or certainly Alex Jones, you come out thinking, well, whatever flickering flame of hope that you might have carried in there, it's thoroughly extinguished. And that's the key, I think. Perhaps I'm not being fair, but that's the key, I think, to understanding the awakened movement, that you must believe in the evilness, the malevolence of the conspiracy, and that the conspiracy not only exists, but is extremely powerful, if not all-powerful, you could say. All right. Another thing to consider is James Delingpole, and I haven't listened to him in a while, and it's great that there are alternative voices out there, and I'm sure he does a good job in some respects and whatnot. But he was, in his conversion to being awakened as opposed to like a mainstream figure, and his conversion to Christianity, it's great that he reads the Psalms and finds comfort in that and so on. That's wonderful. But it seems to me, from the little that I have observed of him, and from reports of friends who do talk about what he shares and the tenor of it, it seems to me that his conversion to Christianity and to the awakened movement is in fact a conspiracy to a conversion to the conspiracy. That this is the central fact, and you cannot prize from his hands, as I believe some guests have tried to do, the fact of that there is hope, that there is no hope, that's something he seems to hold on to, that there is no hope, that the conspiracy is all powerful, and perhaps you might say, I believe he's embraced some sort of a dispensationalist perspective whereby there's some kind of supernatural intervention that comes, but humanly speaking, the evil will only increase and increase and increase. So to me, that is more, a conversion to the conspiracy rather than anything else, which I don't really believe to be very Christian. Okay, but more of that later. Okay, again, this is very distressing to me because they are the best of people. They're good people. They have an ability to, face the truth that others who are normies, don't. Okay, that's great. But I believe they're not. They're embracing essentially, maybe often or always, maybe without being able to articulate it. They're embracing the central tenet, the central plot of the horror movie. That is to say, that evil wins. No matter what kind of moves you pull against evil, all things work together for good for those who are evil. Evil will triumph. And it seems to be a very, very wrong that Christians, and there are so many awakened Christians, should embrace such an idea, whether it be implicit in their thinking or explicit. In fact, I would say that sort of horror movie thinking has more of Satanism about it than Christianity, and I don't want to see my fellow believers in that position. Now, say a little bit more about, the question is, how do we share the gospel with the awake community? And the gospel involves salvation, and I don't have time to talk about biblically what that means, but I believe this is fair in saying that the awakened do have a form of a salvation, and salvation in this context meaning deliverance from these quasi omnipotent powers, and that is this: that by sharing information, by sharing memes and studies and YouTube videos and articles, really good ones, really salty memes, whatever, that you can convert someone to be from being a normie to being awakened. So this is somewhat akin to a conversion experience with a Christian, and what you do. That's one of the key things about awakened people, that they do spend a lot of time sharing information, and there's nothing wrong with sharing information necessarily. But again, it's an integral part, and it's an element. I'm positing, I'm proposing of their plan to solve the problem. But it doesn't really seem like a solution to me, because you're simply making the normies, you're turning them into awakened people who believe in the conspiracy and the near omnipotence or actual omnipotence of the conspiracy. So are they better off at the end of the day? Well, I think marginally so, but the jury's out in my mind as to really whether they are better. And the second part of that plan of salvation, and I'm not saying that the awakened would think of it in these terms, but I'm saying this is my take on it, is that, like Russell Brand, who calls his Brandians, his tribe, awakened wonders, that through becoming, from crossing the Tiber, or through the conversion experience of once becoming a normie, getting the information, then becoming awakened, that we will somehow band together, and together in unity we will face down the dark forces of the woke and the evil. And this is the second aspect of their plan of salvation. Now, I think that sounds a little bit like an 80s movie. It sounds like a little bit like the series V, I don't know, maybe, or a later movie, V for Vendetta, but it's that bit in the plot where people realize that the evil guy on the hill was controlling them all along, and they band together and they grab pitchforks and crowbars, and they storm the castle, and because, man, they want freedom. Once they got the knowledge, we're going to just overthrow these guys. It also makes me think of the Satanist Karl Marx, who posited that once good old socialism would sprout wings, or, I don't know, grow a horn like a unicorn, through the magic of socialism, one day in a land far, far away, the state would melt away if the conditions were just right. I'm not trying to make fun. I am making fun a little bit because I don't like people to be barking up the wrong tree and put their efforts into causes that won't work ultimately. But I don't want to make fun of awakened people. I like them, and I think often they're the best of people, and they show some courage, at least you could say, to face things and look at things as they are, perhaps. So, yeah, the mechanism for salvation, it smacks a little bit much to me of the democratic heresy that the majority, or the near majority, or the big group, that's where the power comes from. So let's try to then bring things together and answer the question: how do we share the gospel with the awake community? Let's recap. The central fact for the awakened is what? It's the conspiracy that it exists, and that I didn't really major in this, but that it is evil. That evil, really, if it lies anywhere, it's certainly not in the awakened themselves. Oh, they do bad things occasionally, but the real evil, the evil which moves the dial, is definitely with the conspirators. That's the source of evil. So, and it's also nearly omnipotent. And the means to counter this, the plan of salvation, and this is to share information through memes and articles, YouTubes, and people, normies, will then convert to a state of being awakened, and they will go on to make memes themselves one day, because the left can't meme but by golly, the awakened folks can. And eventually, these awakened wonders will unite together, and somehow through some mechanism, I'm not sure what the mechanism is, they'll band together and overthrow, and there are elements into truth in all of this. It is good to and necessary to share information, to your friends, but it's very wrong to think that people naturally want to know the truth, because obviously the truth is ultimately, if it is truth, the truth is in Jesus Christ, and you can't really separate the two for very long. And also, people don't want to know the truth because in Romans 1 it says they suppress the truth. People, and this is what you'll find, people don't want to know. They don't want to be bothered. The normies, but ultimately, I lost my train of thought, but there's really no hope in sharing the information. And if you do convert somebody from normie to awakened, well, what do they believe in? They believe in the reality of Satan and his plan through these earthly minions he has, and that they're very powerful. And it doesn't add up to anything in terms of the reality of the situation, in terms of the Christian faith. It's a belief in the present reign of Satan on earth, which is, it's kind of an anti-gospel at both ends of the thing. So what do people need? People really need the gospel, but the gospel is presented in humanistic terms as you going to heaven when you die, which has more to do with Roman and Greek mythology than anything else. Heaven is real, and if you die, yes, unless it's the second coming, you're going to be absent from the body, present with the Lord, but it's always a temporary state. This isn't how salvation, this isn't how the gospel is presented, because ultimately the Christian faith is a God-based faith. So anything that is articulated must start and end with God. So what is the gospel, first of all? The gospel is like, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. What are the good news? That you go to heaven when you die. No, the Bible emphasizes that the key to the good news is that our Lord reigns. And this is the absolutely, this blows the awakened movement and their theology apart and their idea of the world apart. Maybe you're saying I mischaracterize them. Maybe I am, but I'm not trying to, because I love these people, they're on the right track to some extent, but you can't believe in the sovereignty of God on the one hand and the sovereignty of the conspirators on the other hand. Now, some Christians do hold to a sovereignty of God, which, and this is something that they have self-consciously as part of their identity. Others don't, but other Christians don't, but some are very self-conscious about it. But the sovereignty is kind of like a technical sovereignty that, yes, you must tick that box to say that God is sovereign, but what they will not allow is for that sovereign to enter history. He's not reigning now. He'll reign at the second coming. He's we're the church in exile now, and heaven has to enter earth, and time has to cease for the amillennialist, the premillennialist, by supernatural intervention. That's how everything is turned around in a flash, and all at once. And I understand there's a difference of vision between the amillennialist and the premillennialist. Okay, but it's only a technical sovereignty. But what we need, because the conspiracies, there are conspiracies, definitely. I mean, it's totally naive, totally foolish to think that there's no such thing as a conspiracy, that there are not powerful groups at work in the world today who are extremely malevolent, anti-Christian, anti-life even, which is to be anti-Christian, of course. since Christ is life. But we must hold to the absolute sovereignty of God in time, in history, which is the theatre in which these conspirators, who are real, are working. Otherwise, what use is a technical spoon when you need an actual spoon? I technically have a spoon here. Well, you have to use your hands to get at the beans or whatever you're eating. So we need an actual sovereignty with God actually reigning on the earth. And if you have that, as I say, that displaces the central tenet, which is the near omnipotence or actual omnipotence in practice of the conspiracy, which is, I say, the central tenet of the horror movie, or so with a present actual belief in an actually present sovereign God. What do you have? You have hope. You have, instead of everything working together for good for those who are evil. Oh, yes, you don't, Sonny, boy, listen to me. I know all about the conspiracies. You're saying hope here, but no, you don't know the deep things. Behind the scenes, they're working together. So what you thought was hope, no, you're just being fed that. It's all a plan. It's all part of the plan. Nothing happens by accident. Da, 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 da. So with a totally sovereign God, you have a God who totally plans, and who plans, whose plans have been set from the foundation of the world. In time, people, there is a technical holding to yes, God is planning, but there's a practical problem in that it's consigned to a theoretical realm of heaven, of salvation history, whatever it happens to be. We don't need that. We live in the present, and that's where God is present in His sovereign power right now. What is the gospel? Again, it has to do with the death and resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ, which has dealt with sin, which is in all of us, not just this select group of conspirators who are particularly evil. That's what you might call selective depravity. Oh, those people are terrible, terrible people. We're the good people. Why? Because we belong to this group called the Awakened. You could come and join this group too. No. Everybody has sinned. That is estranged everybody from God, from the desire to be free. And again, you cannot separate the freedom that Christ has won on the cross from political freedom. You can't put a barrier and say, oh no, well, that doesn't affect the political world. No, we need a God who is present, and that's the God who is present and who is King of Kings. It's another aspect of the gospel, that He's presently reigning over all the kings of the earth. He doesn't need our permission. He's done everything through the cross. He's exalted to the highest place in heaven, yes, but He rules from heaven. He rules the world from heaven. And another aspect of the gospel is that we, by adoption, become His sons, meaning His princes, and that we have a real authority and a real rule on earth, and that just as He has crushed Satan's head, so in other places He says that Satan will crush. You will crush Satan under your feet shortly. So we as Christians don't need to have this thing of sharing information and banding together with people who are not Christian and so on. This is where our hope comes from. No, our hope comes in participating in this victory that Christ has won on the cross. This is the gospel. It is the gospel of the kingdom that any other kingdom, it could call itself the United Nations, WEF, and so on, is fundamentally not the kingdom that will prevail. That, just as with Daniel, all the kingdoms of the earth are crushed to powder, and that the kingdom that grows gradually in time and in history is not the kingdom of the conspirators and their one world order, but the real, very present kingdom of God. It's not. Anyway, I think I've said enough. I've probably said it very badly. Yeah. I hope that helped someone. I really hope that helped someone. And I'm not trying to be unfair. I hope I wasn't unfair, but let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much.